P.T. Barnum said there was a sucker born every minute. In the enlightened period of history, they tried to say that reason was more um, was how we learned and everything and thought, and it was the best way to go and they were rather anti-religious, of course. And Socrates said something about that education should be something that excites us and gets us going, not a filler. And I think the idea there is that people educate when they educate to fill our soul full of information so that we turn in a certain direction, such as modern day commercialism, how society fills us full of beliefs and ways to live and what to do and how to live our life and what to accept and what to believe, what laws to agree with, and what causes to support and not support, and a belief system based on commercialism, materialism, and keeping the money flowing, but also making wealthy people very wealthy for decades and decades and decades and decades, where they can do things they're never responsible for what they do. So we, it got me thinking about the lie and the clear case study when a person is lied to. In the case of Claire, she was lied to, say, for over a decade, and by her family and by friends in a group situation where they all constantly lied to her. And my experience with lying is that people will accept lies to a degree. And what it means is they can keep filling a soul which is empty, like a vessel, and they can keep filling it with lies until eventually um, the non-reasonable side, reason side, starts to deal with the situation. So reason is where if you teach a person to be afraid of something, reason says be afraid. There's something to be afraid of. Be terrified. Run, you know, and get away as quickly as possible. This is terrible. Be afraid, have fear, be anxious, worry, and things like that. Kind of like the Cold War, all the Americans were running around terrified. Um, in her case, she was constantly hiding in her home, and they used her fear to isolate her. Therefore, while she was isolated and trusting them, they brainwashed her. And they got her to do things she would normally have never have done, or um, they tried to get her back to her old path of immorality, but in very subtle, careful ways, so that she just didn't expect it, like getting her into relationships with bad guys. Her parents are criminals who belong to a criminal group, and Claire found God. And in horror that their daughter was going to dob them into the place, they set about brainwashing her. Other girls in the group suffered the same thing. And in panic, they realized that they needed some way to deal with this, so they constantly lied to her. And it was years and years of lying. What happens, and this is what's happened to me in my past, is you get to a stage where your mind is constantly working with reason and everything, and you're ignoring your gut feelings, you're ignoring your heart, you're ignoring your instincts, you're ignoring that tickle in the back of the head or something that says something's not right here, you know, and it just doesn't feel right. All the reason and all the proof tells you it is right. So you've got this kind of atheist modern day scientist thinking where they say observe and learn. So you observe what happens in the laboratory, put two things together, there is a result, write that down, log it, categorize it, you've learned something, and it's a fact. But they don't bring in the spiritual side of it, and therefore everything taught in the modern day scientific field, other than the basic stuff, is bad science because it's based on, especially when it has to do with the mind, because they do not believe in the spiritual side of the human being. So they can't heal you if they don't believe in that. And they can talk to you about it and they can comfort you if they think you believe in it, but they just think you're disillusioned. So arguing with you won't do any good, as I found with you, arguing with religious people won't do any good. So pat them on the back, help them along, make them feel good about it, but still try to get them back to where you want them to go, not where they want to go. So when you lie to a lot, eventually gets you a stage where your instinct starts clicking in. So say you're sitting there at a window and the person keeps pointing out the window and saying, "That's a bad person." And this person keeps walking past your window and that's a bad person. As the years go by, the person gets anxious and gets scared and stays in the house and all this sort of stuff. We're doing a fake situation here, and it's exaggerated, but the person won't go out because they fear that person or that thing or that event, or they fear nuclear war, they fear the Cold War, they fear communists, they fear dark people, they fear white people, they fear something, and it controls their life because they fear it. This is why we shouldn't be afraid of irrational fears, because they control us, and other people can use them to control us. The fear starts to die away when the reason starts to drop off and the gut feeling and common sense and the gut feeling and true logic and your heart, and so step in. And then you can sit there at the window and the person next to you saying, "See, he's coming past again, he's a really bad person." And you're looking, and then you look at the person, and then you look at the window and you think, "Nah, there's something wrong here." And the person sitting there watching you to make sure you're still believing the lie. And that's kind of how the lie goes. So you get to a stage, because the lie is fake, it's not real. So, and as they say, eventually in the end, the truth will come out and people will realize the truth. So, what they're talking about there is when a lie is told to us, often it creates emotional imbalance in us. And the lie creates, if it's based on fear, it creates intense anxiety and worry, and we become very afraid of doing something. If the lie is based on other things, and it creates stuff. There was that one on the radio show where the woman, these two guys tricked this woman up. They rang her up, and it was on a radio station. I was very angry they did it, and they told her that her husband had won a lot of money, $1 million, a lotto. She was over the hill. She was so happy. But by the end of it, they told her that he was running off with a woman down the road, and I think she should have sued them for this. And she was ended up yelling and screaming and calling her husband a scumbag and absolutely hating him. So their lies had created within her a deep, intense hate for the man she loved. And they managed to get that hate out of her in probably 5 minutes. From the beginning of the 5 minutes, in the first minute, she was over the hill because she and he had $1 million. By the end of it, when they found out he'd dumped her for a younger woman, brought a new car, and was going overseas, she wanted to kill him. And it shows the depth of their marriage, I would assume, that she actually went to that degree without actually saying, "You're lying. I'm going to talk to my husband." She doesn't. She just went into straight hate. And it was shocking. But it's, so you can see how people, when they lie, how they can emotionally unbalance us with that lie. And when our emotions are balanced heavily in the wrong direction, towards fear, towards hate, towards anything else, even a broken heart, we react according to the emotional imbalance. And therefore, for a period of time, possibly even many years, or in some cases with a hate, like for darker races or white races and that, it can last a lifetime. But this imbalance, where we're leaning heavily towards an emotion, that's completely fabricated. It's not, there's no solid foundation of it, except it was lied to us. It was told to us. And it becomes a form of mind control, where it controls what we do each day. It controls where we go. It controls who we say. It controls how we love. It controls the opportunities we take. Now, if you dislike dark people, right, and you're white or Asian, and you dislike African Americans, and then some African Americans come to you at different periods of your life, say once a decade with a great opportunity, you turn it down because you don't like African Americans. But the opportunities are incredible, and they'll completely change your life for the better. See how the emotional imbalance that is hate um, controls our life for the wrong reasons, and the results are not good. So if you're taught to fear, like as in the Claire case study, where Claire was taught to fear and be afraid and frightened, she was controlled by her emotions that told her there was something really true um, and obvious to fear. Yet it was a fabrication, it was a lie. And as time goes by, the lie starts to sift and dissipate, and then the instincts kick in. And when the instincts kick in, she looks out the window at the man she's supposed to be terrified of and realizes she's not terrified anymore. And while they're still telling her, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, like the government constantly in America telling everyone to be afraid of communism in the Cold War, be afraid of the communists. And today there's still people very terrified of the communism. And unless there's an actual communist war, there's no real reason to be afraid of them. You could be wary and you could keep an eye on it, and if you saw something suspicious, you report it. But to walk around in your home building nuclear bunkers under your house, or and people have done this sort of thing, and being terrified in certain ways over certain people, over certain situations where our emotions have lost the plot. It's controlling our lives. So you're not having a chemical imbalance when people do this to you, and they'll get you to they'll manipulate you so much that your emotions take control, and then you find, like in the Cold War situation, you're taking antidepressants or some kind of chemicals to get over your anxiety because you're constantly fearing a nuclear war, or you're constantly fearing communists, or you're constantly fearing the dark people in your neighborhood coming around and killing you, or the white people, the white supremacists coming and getting you. You're constantly fearing stuff. There's an excellent video of Donald Duck, and he's sitting in a chair, and the radio is going, and the news is playing. It's constantly doing negative, and he's going nervous like this, and he's going crazy because of what's on the radio. This is driving him crazy. And so what the radio is doing, and the negative pitch of the news broadcast is unbalancing his emotions, leading his emotions towards fear, anxiety, terror. What's going to happen next around the corner? He might live the next 200 days without anything going wrong in all the things he fears, but it will not stop the fears because the imbalance has already been created. And it has to come back to being balanced, and we have to start using our instincts. Now, back in the Enlightenment period, many wanted everyone to believe that only reason we could rely on and trust. But the mind, when it is thrown out of sync, and from the normal person you once were, and it turns in a direction that controls it irrationally, then the reason doesn't work, and we need something to get us out of it. And that's where instinct and gut feelings and our heart itself can enlighten us and lift us and show us that something's wrong. And another part is simply that the lie loses, loses ability to be the stronghold it used to be in your mind. and people will look and they'll see things and they'll say, oh, there's nothing to worry about, and it's like I've been told about people, and I've been told that they're a bad person, not to trust them and not to go near them and things like that. Or I've read reviews on a product and they're all negative. And I've gone and bought the product and it's been fantastic. And I've gone and met the person in some way, in an event or while I'm working or something like that. And the person's turned out to be really nice. And I'm sort of like, what's going on here? About, heaps of people told me bad things about this person. And I may even mention it because I'm very rude and vulgar like that. And I'll say, people say a lot of bad things about you. And they go, oh, yeah, it's something happened. I fell out with a family, and that family's been going around telling lies about me for years. So you get that kind of situation. I know a woman who was running for a mayor situation and running for mayor. And she was into psychic stuff or spiritualism, not psychic, but spiritualism. And the opposing mayor, who was a very materialistic, makeup covered fake, she went around telling everyone about the spiritual woman's beliefs and stuff, and beefed it up and added some mysticism and magic and whatever. And people were so freaked out by it, they mass voted for the materialistic woman, and she won. And that was a horrendous character assassination. And the other woman never recovered. She tried running for mayor again, and people just weren't interested, and so she just gave up. So people in mass can be emotionally controlled over the same thing, as you see in this situation with the mayor. And it can control and change a person's complete life. And the person can lose opportunities, lose friends, lose the faith of other people who once had faith in them. And they can lose, just trust and everything. And it's hard to recover that. Only something major tends to recover it in the masses' minds. Something big. Otherwise, you'll always have little people constantly rebeefing up the emotional imbalance in their head and implanting it in other people's head, keeping the fear running. So in the Claire case study, sometime in the future, she will hear what she's been told, and she will look out the window and it just won't click. The anxiety and everything, there might be some kind of anxiety and stuff in there, which is natural. You've got your natural fears, your natural anxiety, your natural worries. And if she was part of anything that harmed this person, like telling stories about them, then there'll be an incredible disappointment in herself that she actually believed it, what these people were telling her, and a sad feeling, I would imagine. That goes along with the disappointment for what they've done, and a desire to fix up what they've done wrong. Good people do that. So what I'm saying here is the lie will always lose its power eventually. And it may take decades, it may take a lifetime. I always think of people, because I believe in our spiritual side. I always thought, it would be horrible to die and then look back and realize all the things that I'd been fooled into believing were true, and they weren't. And I'd just sit there and think, oh, I believe that. And I heard other people. I told people my opinion. 20 years ago, I used to be very opinionated. And if I see videos of how I used to talk about people and things like that, it brings tears to my eyes. So now I'm aiming at not having an opinion about anything but having, I think it's more like understanding and giving people second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th chances. And I never let first impressions get to me. I had a friend years ago, Torrance, and I couldn't stand him because he was the typical macho black dark guy. In the end, we finally met, and he was the nicest guy ever, and we were best friends for many years. Shared a lot of our inner thoughts and told a lot of the secrets about our lives, and it really healed both of us, helped us both. So I learned, don't go by first impressions. So when you meet someone or you see someone and someone starts whispering stuff in your ears, that's your first impression. Be careful about that. And, one of the things that was lacking in the Claire case study is she didn't do her own homework. She didn't reach out beyond the family circle and ask people other than those she was told by her parents and friends to trust. She didn't go, in my advice in that situation, if people are telling you not to talk to this person, not to talk to that person, not to ask those people because you can find out other stuff. And it's safe these days. You can use email, you can fake an email account. And then as soon as you've talked to that person, if anything scary comes up, delete the email account. You can send them a text, you can write them a Facebook message, you can, with a fake Facebook account if you have to, you can go see someone with friends, 2 or 3 big male friends if you're female. The point is it can be done and you can gather this information if you try. If you just feel something inside you thinks there's something wrong. But normally when a person is first imbalanced by fears and anxiety and the like, which brings depression, great depression, and gets them on pills and stuff, it's overcoming. It totally overcomes the person, and they're completely unreachable for years because they're so, you know, like if you're attacked by a white person or a dark person, it could create a prejudice for many, many years. And then experiences with darker or white people starts having you realize that not everyone's tarred with the same brush in that situation. And just because of the colour of a person's skull does not mean their skin does not mean they're a bad person. We have to learn it over time. And then we start thinking, and the person who once hated a particular race can actually love them because they're now letting their heart through. And they're thinking, oh, I made a tremendous mistake. And this is all part of learning. It's not something that's bad. I'd rather be lost like that for many years and then enlightened rather than, and then finally realize that, with my heart and my soul and my gut instincts and discernment and the like, that what I thought was bad or wrong was actually a wonderful thing. And I'd rather know eventually at some time what is right and what is wrong. Oh, my collar. You can always tell that I'm not married because I never do that stuff. I used to be so bad. I used to go to church and the woman and the guys' wives used to come up and do my collar, and the husbands would be looking at me because only they're supposed to do it. And they'd be looking at me like, James. So anyway, the lie will eventually wear out and you will eventually start to understand. And in the Claire case study, as far as I know, she's still completely lost and she might get it in 10 years' time. But for you, be open-minded about the things that you're told. Try to understand the other person's situation before you judge them. And you may be judging a person on something that's completely fabricated, human-made, and has no validity or truth, or it's truth mixed with lies. Like a person could come from a bad home or a bad family, and then the people who want you to hate that person tell you a whole lot of lies about that person, and they mix it in with what the family did, and they say, see, they're a bad person too, and they're not. Not everyone born in a bad family is a bad person. So, please be open-minded. Please use your instincts and your gut feelings. This sort of thing happened to me with character assassination. And I want people to understand and realize that there's more to other people than what you're told. Words are cheap. Fake evidence is cheap. And that person that you're not being friends with could be your life changer, a game changer for you, the person that was actually put on earth to make your life so much better. And it doesn't matter how long you're with that person, and it doesn't matter how much you learn from that person. Well, it does, but it's not time based, it's more like content based. And I think it was Bruce McLaren said, it's not how many years you live, it's what you do within that period of time. So in all your relationships, it's not how long you know a person, it's what you got from that person, they got from you in that period of time. It could be short, it could be a long period, it could be a lifetime relationship, or you could know them 5, 10 years and they pass away. But what you learn in that 5 years, 10 years is amazing. I'm gonna leave it at that. God bless you. Have a good day.